Oh. Just want you to get in there. Oh, there you go. Orientation is locked. I don't want to rotate the device back. I don't want it to be locked. Why are you doing this to me? Sir? 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 Why does it have to be locked? Maybe you gotta go that way. Seems weird. Saturday morning snow. All day snow. All day last night snow. I went to hockey. I live in Oshawa. I picked my dad up in Ajax at 6 o'clock. Hockey was at 7:30. Zero snow on the ground. Come out of hockey, great game. We only had 8 skaters. We won. Nasty. We won 4-1. Team was all pissy because there wasn't enough penalties called. I mean, everybody hooks in that league. I got high stick twice in the mouth. Tomahawked over the head. Obviously accidental, but like, the refs aren't going to catch everything. And they didn't, but it's a good game. And then we come out of hockey, and the blizzard started. The blizzard, like, that was crazy. That was one of the scariest drives I've had in a while. Coming home from Scarborough, Canland Ice Sports, shout out. And took Taunton all the way across, down Brock, then did the highway from Brock to Westney, and that wasn't going well, so I just said screw it, and I stayed at my dad's house last night. Nice little guest room with king-size bed, not a big deal. And then I thought this morning on the way home, we gotta talk all these trades that happened. Or at least I wanted to sit down to the millions and millions of viewers on GroomersTake. And honestly, just kind of scroll through it. Scroll through every single trade that went down. Whether they're meaningful or meaningless, right? And, because you know what? Honestly, a lot of it's going to be news to me. Not news, but, you know, some of them are going to be like, oh yeah, that happened. Like right here. The last trade of the day, I guess you would say. Because I guess this is going to work backwards. Like, you know, you had the smaller trades happen where maybe just farm team players were being traded back and forth. But like LA trades future considerations, or did they acquire it? Like, none of it really matters. Austin Wagner goes to Chicago. Like, all these little trades aren't really anything. The Rasmus Asplund one was interesting to me, going to Nashville from Buffalo for a 7th. I remember not drafting, but when Asplund got drafted in my Dynasty League, I think there was a little bit of potential there. And then we had the Ritchie brothers get traded for each other, which was weird. I'm going to try and not go off track at all here, but certain trades are gonna, or certain names or trades are gonna make me want to talk about other stuff. And eventually, we're gonna get to that anyway. But like Nick Ritchie going to Calgary, Brett Ritchie going to Arizona, Troy Stecher going to Calgary. So like, Calgary's a bit of a mess, right? Now that we're on Calgary here, we might as well talk about them. They're not looking too good. I don't like. I've been wrong about a lot of things when I initially give a nice little Groomer's take, you know, but I never thought I never once thought Huberdeau was worth the money they gave him with that contract. Is it 8 or 10 years, and it's a lot of money, and I just don't think that Huberdeau is a guy you build around to give that kind of money to. And then you're hoping that like Lindholm can keep it going. They're hoping bringing in Kadri, but like Kadri's a second line center at best. And now I don't think Calgary has enough in the farm, enough young guns coming up. They have some good ones, but you've already given out so much money, and your goaltenders can't make a quality save. I'm worried about Calgary. Calgary is my second favorite team in the NHL. Shout out, Joe McGinley. But yeah, I think they're a bit of a mess. I mean, here they got Nick Ritchie coming back. Sure, you're going to throw him on your fourth line, get a bit of grit. Troy Stetcher, I mean, I don't know. Maybe he's your seventh defenseman. I don't necessarily love it. So here we got a bit more meat on the bones here with Minnesota Wild acquiring John Klingberg. Anaheim gets Andrei Schuster, Nikita Nestorenko, prospect, I guess, and a 2025 fourth. Anaheim retains 50% of Klingberg's salary, and this is an expiring contract, right? So Minnesota, I mean, Bill Guerin, I think he's got them going in the right direction, but again, I was talking about this with a buddy at work, talking about Kaprizov. Kaprizov is a true MVP. Why? Because if they didn't have him, they'd quite possibly be in the Bedard sweepstakes. I think they would have absolutely nothing. They aren't built well up the middle of the ice. They have Kaprizov, they have Zuccarello, fine, but I think they're just trying to put together a band of brothers there, and I don't see it happening. I don't see it working. They like Gustafsson going forward in net. I wonder if they tried to shop Fleury at all. I mean, if there's a bunch of teams out there looking for a backup goalie. There had to have been, right? But I mean, Minnesota's probably going to make the playoffs, but they're not. I don't think they're going to scare a soul. And they get Klingberg though, but Klingberg can move the puck, help with the power play, and it's a good ad, especially on an expiring deal. So at least there was something there on trade deadline day. Patrick Brown to Ottawa, nothing. Scott Reedy, Jacob Peterson, guess not nothing. The Leafs do a tiny trade. They send Dryden Hunt, get a centerman, nothing. Why'd that one disappear? Just a lot of really nonsense trades. I mean, a lot of the beef happened earlier in the year. Like what? Lou Lamoriello got it fired up with Horvat, and then what did we have otherwise before that? Nothing, right? So that really kicked us off. Oscar Sundqvist, it's a good little piece, but again, it's depth. Good on Stevie Y for getting something out of that guy. Again, Minnesota just trying to plug guys in. I don't think it's going to work. Jordan Greenway to Buffalo. This was a good one to me. I mean, Buffalo, they're not going to lose anything this year, right? They got nothing to lose. They're clearly up and coming. Little bit more experience for their squad. They bring in a guy like Jordan Greenway, who's a big boy. You can throw him in kind of any left wing, right wing situation, whether or not you want to put him with maybe some of the big boys, some of the snipers, a little protection, little grit in front of the net, little grit down low. Put him on the third line, put him on the fourth line. You could do any of those. Not really sure of his term. But but it's a good ad to have. I mean, I don't think Buffalo would be acquiring too many expiring contracts, but they're still trying to push for that wild card spot, a play-in game or whatever you want to call it. And good on them. I'm just happy Buffalo's actually, relevant, I guess, because for the last over decade, close to 2, they haven't been doing much. So good on them for being there now, and I really like the acquisition of Greenway. I don't have a Kleenex in here. Montreal made little moves, but again, like I don't know the name, so I'm not going to pretend I know shit on it. Kulikov going to Pittsburgh from Anaheim. I think Anaheim did a pretty darn good job. Wow, they were bad, but they had a lot of expiring contracts to deal with. Brock McGinn, the poor guy, going to Anaheim, but honestly, he could be a good fit there for them. Don't hate that for Anaheim at all. Kulikov, bit of grit on the defense there. I think Pittsburgh needed to do a bit better job protecting their goalies, protecting leads, and hopefully Kulikov could kind of do that. What Pittsburgh didn't do at this deadline, at least from a crease aspect, is they didn't get a backup goalie. I mean, Tristan Jarry's been there. I think he's been looking fine. But when the games are bad, they're really, really bad. And they need somebody to protect the front of the net a bit harder, maybe win a bit more battles in the corners, and maybe Kulikov does that for them. But I thought that they'd be looking for a backup. When Jonathan Quick immediately became available from going to Columbus, I thought either Tampa Bay or Pittsburgh would be the front runners to get Jonathan Quick because they need a save from a backup goalie. If Vasilevsky goes down, Elliott is trash. And what else are you gonna do there? I didn't see it. And if Pittsburgh gets in, and I think Pittsburgh will probably end up being that second wild card spot, and that means leaving Washington on the outside, which is crazy to say. They need a save. If Jarry goes down, you can't rely on Casey DeSmith. He's been absolutely horrible, but Kulikov coming in here, I really, really like that for them. Again, it's weird to say, are we really scared of Pittsburgh? I mean, there's the Crosby aspect, and you could be scared of that. But other than that, it's not really the same. Skipping that trade, a little schnar for Allard. Winnipeg. So they've been kind of struggling of late, but I still think they can compete. And they have Hellebuyck and net. So they acquired Vladislav Nemestikov. I think that's a good fit there. I feel sorry for Nemestikov, poor guy. I mean, I feel like he's just always a guy that is expendable, that can get thrown in trades. We saw him go to San Jose, and San Jose flips him right away for a fourth from Winnipeg. Nemestikov could fit. You can kind of throw him anywhere in your lineup. Not a complete... not a very high ceiling there for him, but he could put up maybe 20 and 20. If you get 20 and 20 out of the kid, you're happy. Gives him a bit more skill on the bottom six maybe. So it's a good ad for Winnipeg, especially with who's the kid they have there. The kid just got hurt, right? And I think they put Mason Appleton on IR as well, so they're gonna need some help. LA acquires Zach McEwen. Bit of a strong guy, bit of a grinder, bit of a guy that'll hit everything on the third, fourth line. LA gets away from Brendan Lemieux, which didn't seem to be working out. I mean, I haven't heard his name in forever. I'm assuming he just does that same kind of role. Philly also acquires a 2024 fifth. So this is LA just, bit of a bottom ad to try and keep competing, because they're going to be in the playoffs here. So just a little depth piece, and here we go, same kind of depth piece. Curtis Lazar gets activated by Vancouver off the IR. Another guy you can plug deep in the lineup, and New Jersey's made a lot of great moves. We're going to talk more and more about them. I think they've done well, quietly, sneaky well. And now you got Curtis Lazar in your bottom role, and Vancouver in return gets a 2024 fourth. That's pretty decent. Again, Curtis Lazar's not going to get you too many points, too offensive points, but he'll penalty kill, he'll grind low, he'll block as many shots as he possibly can. Kid's a grinder, he's a workhorse. Groomer's got to get a Kleenex. He's dying here. Oh, there was one in my pocket the whole time. My neighbor upstairs is going to be like, who the hell is this guy talking to? Well, really, he's talking to nobody. Bonino. Pittsburgh Penguins acquire Nick Bonino from San Jose. He's going back. I really like that, actually. I mean, again, depth piece, going to play center on their fourth line. Kapanen's gone now. For a 7th and a 5th, both in 2023 this year. So I don't know if Bonino's expiring. I could click read more, but I'm not going to. Oh no, Bonino doesn't play center. I'm wrong. Plays left wing. Again, just a filler for Pittsburgh right now. Jacob Vrana. Kid's been going through some struggles. He's back in the NHL. I think Detroit just kind of, you don't want to say get away from a kid, get away from a player, but St. Louis sees something in him. He's got skill. Maybe he just needs a new environment to be in. And coming back to Detroit's a 7th and a prospect, Dylan McLaughlin, centerman. Red Wings are going to retain 50% of Vrana's cap hit, which is nice of them, I guess. And hopefully Vrana can, find that skill, that potential that we saw a bit more of in Washington. So here's a bit of a bigger trade. We are all waiting to see where Max Domi was going to go. There's rumors of Toronto. I didn't see that happening. I don't think that was a piece they necessarily needed. Carolina was in on him hard. Again, they acquired him last year. A good ad. I think it'd be a really good ad for anybody acquiring Max Domi. But it has to be the right fit, and I think Max Domi will fit in well. Dallas has Pavelski going with the 2 young guns up top. You're able to spread out Jamie Benn with Tyler Seguin between your second and third line, and now you can throw Max Domi into one of those lines. I really like this pickup for Dallas. Dallas being pretty heavy in the crease was able. I mean, there's probably a bunch of money involved, but flipping back Anton Khudobin to Chicago, he's a bit on the end part of his career now, but he's still a good player, and Chicago also gets a 2nd round pick. So I think you'll see Khudobin play a couple games this year to close out the season for Chicago. And Dylan Wells also gets acquired by Dallas. But really, you're looking at Max Domi here. I like this pickup. He can play every position in the lineup in the front there, center, right wing, left wing, and Max Domi will fit in. Dallas is good. They've got at least three balanced lines. Stud in Heiskanen on D, and Jake Oettinger is a really, really good goaltender. This is good. Dylan Sikura going to Anaheim. I didn't really see what was going on there. Maybe Anaheim wants to use him for a bit of the future. And Maxim Golod, whoever that is, going to Chicago. All right, let's find some more meat here. Edmonton Oilers acquiring Nick Bugstad and Cam Dineen, but we'll focus on Bugstad. 2023 third, and Michael Kessening, defense, going to Arizona. Arizona retains 50. So Nick Bugstad was turning a lot of heads this year. A lot of people were in on him. Back in the day when he was on Florida a few years ago, he was highly touted. A big kid, could play center, right wing. The skill didn't really evolve, but the size and the hitting did. And this year, I think he's found a pretty good role in Arizona there, where I think he's kind of just found his game, maybe a 15-15 guy kind of thing. And I think he'll fit in really nicely with Edmonton. Good depth add. And Edmonton's rolling, man. I mean, it's hard to not be rolling a little bit with the best player in the universe in Connor McDavid, but Bukestad will fit in nicely there 100%. Bit of a weird one here. I didn't think Buffalo was going to give up on Anders Bork, but they've had him deep in the lineup, or maybe sometimes not even in the lineup. Chicago acquires him for future considerations. Usually that's going to be maybe money or a pick. I don't know if the NHL can trade money, actually. And then here you go. The Vegas Golden Knights acquire Jonathan Quick for Michael Hutchinson in the 2025 7th. Columbus retains 50% of Quick's salary. I mean, there's all this salary stuff, right? I'm not into it. But I mean, we might as well stay here on Vegas because I don't think they did anything else. What? Vegas had the cap space to make more of a move, and they didn't do it. Unless they are not telling us something and that Stone's going to be able to come back a lot sooner than we thought from that back surgery. But I mean, Logan Thompson's still hurt. Maybe he's coming back, but Perswant's looked okay. Aiden Hill, I think he was a bit injured too now. But I didn't see them needing a goalie. They needed to score goals. Bit of a weird one there. We'll have to see what happens as it gets closer, but Vegas is in it right now. I thought they were going to make a bit more of a splash, but Jonathan Quick going there, I mean, he's not going to be your number one starter. Bit odd there. Maybe Stone will come back. We'll see. John Gillies going to Columbus. And then here we go again, right? Like, Jakub Voracek hasn't played all year, and a 6th going to Arizona. Arizona's just a dumpster fire, collecting all these old contracts. I mean, Gary Bettman saying, we're watching you closely, managers, to make sure there's no funny business. Well, what do you mean? Arizona is the funny business. They are the definition of funny business. They keep acquiring all these old contracts. Chris Pronger is getting paid by the Arizona Coyotes. What are we doing here? What is going on? It's weird. It's weird. And then it's like Arizona is just trying to get ready to give Austin Matthews $20 million a year or something, but it's odd. But whatever. Next, here's a bit of a juicier one. So everyone was talking about Tyler Bertuzzi. The news came out after it wasn't Meyer, after Patrick Kane was officially a New York Ranger. The news came out of Detroit's camp that Bertuzzi was now available. Originally, they said maybe he wasn't going to be available because they were competing. Detroit was in it. And then all of a sudden, Hronek's gone, Bertuzzi's gone. We'll get into Hronek a little bit. But then right after this trade was done, Boston announces that Taylor Hall needs surgery, or if not, whatever, he's on LTIR, and Nick Foligno might be on the IR for a little bit. Sure, there's a lot of NHL teams in the East that were happy about that news, but Tyler Bertuzzi acquired, and boy, oh boy, does he just not scream Boston Bruin to you. Great addition. I was hoping the Leafs could be in on him. I'd rather see him in the top 2 left wing spot if you're going to move Riley down, but we'll get into more of that later. This is a really good piece, and Detroit does very well acquiring a first round pick here in 2024 and a 4th in 2025. So, you know, Detroit doing well, but Boston just continually getting better, which is scary. Pittsburgh Penguins, couple days ago, acquired Michael Granlund from Nashville. Nashville is just absolutely unloading now. David Poyle giving the reins to Barry Trotz now. We're going to see Nashville, I think, strip this thing down to the very, very bottom, which is too bad for a guy like Roman Josi. I believe he just got paid, but now what? I mean, now he's going to be there getting paid. I'm sure I think you would have to do it now. If you're going to get rid of Roman Josi, you're going to have to do it pretty soon. But But again, Nashville just saying bye. They acquire a second-round pick in 2023, and Pittsburgh gets Michael Granlund. I think Pittsburgh's hoping here that Michael Granlund will be a guy that can fit in anywhere, maybe with Crosby, maybe with Malkin, but he's going to be asked to play a top 2 forward role here, top 2 line here, and get some offense done. But again, Pittsburgh trying to build something. And I do like the acquisition. Michael Granlund has shown that he can get some points. He can be productive. So we'll see how that goes. It's going to be fun. Just the rest of this season is going to be fun to see where guys go. Then here we go. This is where Nemestikov went to San Jose for Michael, whatever is irrelevant. Pittsburgh shipped center Teddy Bluger to Vegas. I think this might have been just for money, but Bluger is a good player. I think Pittsburgh's just a bit more solid in the center position. They didn't need him, and Pittsburgh got a defenseman in Delabortore and a 24 third. Not much. Eric Portillo, a goalie, going to LA. Skip, 2023 third, going to Buff. And here we go, some great meat. It's under the major trades category here on TSN, shout out. Ottawa Senators. So we've been waiting years and years, 2 years now, for Jakob Chychrun to get traded out of Arizona because he's a young player, great hair, good defenseman. Weird. On term for another 2 years, I believe, after this one. So Arizona was saying, if you're acquiring this guy, it's going to be for some money, as in return. It's going to be a good return. And he's saying, we want like 2 first-round picks plus waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, and then boom, Ottawa lands him. For this, a conditional 2023 first-round pick, a conditional 2024 second-round pick, and a 2026 second-round pick. The conditions, you ask. The 2023 rounder is top 5 protected. If met, pick becomes 24, first-round pick unprotected. Should Ottawa reach an Eastern Conference final, yada yada, becomes a first. So all of that, this whole waiting, and that's the return? What was it that Toronto, because we'll get to it later, but I honestly thought Toronto was going to make a big push for Chychrun. Any other team in the NHL that wants to win a cup this year, what were they not offering that they couldn't get a trade done? I don't think Arizona wants to trade with the Leafs. I think they hate the Leafs. They don't want them to get any better because they want to keep giving Austin Matthews a reason to leave Toronto and come to Arizona in a season and a half. Ottawa absolutely gets better here and makes Arizona look silly. I can't believe we waited this long to have that trade go down. In my Dynasty Hockey League, I have Chychrun. I'm excited about this acquisition, even though it's Ottawa. And you got to be excited for Ottawa too, because they're looking a lot better. And, they're not too far behind for competing. I don't think they're going to be close to a wild card this year. I think they're 5 points out. I think it might be a little bit too late. But they're making the pieces. And this is I can't believe this trade happened the way it did, and we waited that long for it. But Chychrun's an Ottawa Senator, and he's going to fit in just nicely. And I think he's from the area, so good on him. Absolutely love that. And then a weird one to me. A weird one from both aspects because, hey, don't get me wrong. I trust everything Steve Yzerman does. He did it in Tampa Bay. And now he seems to be doing it in Detroit. But he ships out Filip Hronek, a defenseman that seemed to be a staple there. He was going to stay. But I guess they want to build more around Moritz Seider, and why wouldn't you? Kid's a stud. But, maybe they didn't see themselves spending the money on him. So they ship him out and they get a conditional first and a 2023 second. But it's from Vancouver. What's Vancouver doing? Make up your mind. Are you going to now spend money on Hronek when it comes to it? Or even if you have to? and you're trading away a first. Are you blowing it up or aren't you, Vancouver? I don't really understand what the heck's going on there. It'd be interesting to find out. I don't get it. And they also acquire a 2023 fourth in that deal. What's going on, Vancouver? So Carolina, everyone was saying they didn't do a great job. Their team's really good. I think they're better than last year. They've gained more experience. They've been struggling with injuries. Poor Max Pacioretty out again. I thought they were going to be in like they were in on a guy like Domi. I thought they'd maybe add some sort of another weapon on forward. Instead, they looked for defense and they got Shane Gostisbehere from Arizona. Gostisbehere was great in Philly, trended downward near the end there, and was doing decent in Arizona, and I think he scored a power play goal last night. I think this is a good complementary piece. What I find with Carolina, is on the defensive side, they have a lot of shut down defensemen and not too many offensive guys, because Gostisbehere is more of an offensive guy and doesn't do so well defensively, and we saw it last night with the power play goal. So he's going to see some time there, and fit in probably in I'm guessing the top four, but either way, that defensive core is more of a committee, and this is a good little piece for Carolina. Lars Eller, I think Colorado was hoping to make a bigger splash. They were talks of Jonathan Taves going there because you could throw him in the second or third line center. I think once Colorado's healthy and they've got Landeskog and Rantanen on the left and right side of that second line, you don't necessarily need like a stud centerman there. I think that's where Kadri really benefited last year, and it got him paid. But like, you didn't need, like, you have no problem once those two wingers on the second line are healthy. You can put Alex Newhook in the middle, and he would be just fine. He would have the protection of those two wingers, and I think they'd work well. So with this acquisition of Lars Eller, I think it's more of not a second line center. I think it's more of a third line center piece once it comes down to it. Because Lars Eller is a gamer, man. He can score important goals for you. He did a few years back for Washington, and they gave up a second round pick in 2025. So I like this ad. I thought Colorado would do more, but once they're healthy, they're gonna, like, don't sleep on them. They're just gonna keep climbing the standings, and I think they're still one of the best teams in the league. Good little ad there. So another one we were waiting on. So Columbus acquired Quick, which was very weird to me. While we're here, I might as well talk about it. I don't understand what LA was doing. They got Gavrikov and Korpisalo. They wanted a bit more help in the crease because Cal Peterson didn't do it. He's gone. Thank goodness Phoenix Copley was able to come in and take over that crease, and he's done a very good job at it. But they needed a bit more help in the crease, and they get Korpisalo to do that. An expiring contract, maybe they'll throw some money at him and roll with those two guys. We will see. But really, the quiet piece here is Gavrikov. A few weeks ago, everyone's talking about Gavrikov and where he could go, and now all of a sudden, here he is quietly being thrown in this deal with all these other names. It's like, oh yeah, Gavrikov. So this is a good play for LA. It sucks that Quick had to go. I mean, I'd rather him be able to leave on his own terms because I think this is the end of his contract. A little weird. A first round pick conditional in 23 and a 24 third going to Columbus. Columbus just, going through a bit of a build here. Hopefully they get Bedard. There's a lot of teams hoping, but Columbus isn't very good right now, and they get a couple assets there. And then the trade that I have no idea how the Rangers are able to do it. I feel like a lot of these trades now and what these managers are focused on, it's more about balancing money and figuring out the money before figuring out the player itself and building a team. But the Rangers do acquire Kane after acquiring Tarasenko. Like, that is wild to me. I'm not going to downplay what the New York Rangers are or any of the players that they do have on this team. But I mean, everyone's getting a bit older there, right? Like Tarasenko's a bit of a band-aid, good player, but I mean, Panarin and Kane aren't going to be the same Panarin and Kane that they were in Chicago, what, 6-7 years ago now? But don't get me wrong, they're still very good. And the biggest part to me is I thought if the Rangers were going to be adding any kind of serious pieces, they would have to end up giving one or two of Capo Caco or Alexis Lafreniere. And they gave up none of them, which is absurd because if they find that, if they hit that spot where these guys are going to be what we all thought they'd be, I don't know if it's going to happen. It's just incredible because 1 through 4 now on the Rangers, it looks lethal. They have the goalie, they have the defense. It's wow. I mean, it's a very good team. So Kane and some guy named Connor Zek go the other way, and really, all the money's going everywhere. Blah blah blah. But we got to just focus on Kane leaving, Kane going to New York, and it's just weird. Kane out of Chicago. Wow. Gustav Nyquist, I believe, is injured, but Minnesota acquired him, and I think he'll be coming back. Again, Columbus just getting rid of pieces that they don't see in their future, and they get a 5th for him. We're getting down to it. Matthias Ekholm. Okay, so you got to love Ekholm because he can eat a lot of minutes. He'll block a shot with his face. He'll do anything to win. Edmonton acquires him along with a 6th-round pick. There is still a hunk of money left on Ekholm's contract. Edmonton's able to take it on. They do have to give up Tyson Barrie to make that work. But again, Tyson Barrie's just more of an offensive guy, more of a power play weapon. But Edmonton has weapons, right? Whether it's Nurse, Bouchard is still going to grow, Draisaitl, Nuge, and of course McDavid, Kane on a power play. So you can really, you can afford to get rid of Barrie, but you had to get rid of that money. Ekholm comes in. He's not your offensive weapon, but he's going to shut it down. I really like that addition for Ekholm. Buddy of mine is an Oilers fan. He said he wasn't too pumped about giving up Reed Schaefer at this time. But again, Edmonton has a lot of young, good youth players who are ready to make that step. And if Ekholm works for you for the next 2-3 years, then it's going to work. Edmonton giving up their 1st this year and a 4th in 2024. Again, Nashville just acquiring now, right? I mean, you go to Daily Faceoff, shout out, love that website. You look at their lineup and boy, oh boy, not looking good for the future here. But this is really good for Edmonton. We can go back to what GroomersTake was. I asked at the beginning of the year, at the end of the season, will Edmonton be the best team coming out of Canada? Will they finish with the best record? We'll have to go back and look at those, look at the voting there, but it's going to be tight. We'll skip this trade, Nashville, for future consideration. So it was a very busy February 28th, the last day of the month for Toronto. I'm driving home from work and all these trades are dropping. Toronto Maple Leafs acquiring Luke Schenn, giving up a 2023 3rd-round pick. I believe that maybe was the Islanders pick that they acquired and dishing out Pierre Engvall. So Schenn coming back. I like it a lot. You're not... The Leafs have a lot of defensive guys now, right? They're deep. But again, it's like, who do you picture being in a lineup if you're going to win a Stanley Cup? And what they needed a bit more of that tenacity on defense. Luke Schenn is older now, right? When he was here in 2008 to 2012, I think, with Toronto, he was kind of relied on and hoped upon to be a bit more offensive. We learned that, and he learned, and he grew into who he was, Luke Schenn, and he said, I'm more of a shutdown guy. I'm going to get the puck out of our zone. I'm going to hit everything that moves, and we saw that immediately against Calgary a couple nights ago, where he launched Kadri into the boards, and he's going to do that. So teams are going to be expecting that every single second that he's on the ice, and that's what I think the Leafs really got to love about him. throw him in the 6-7 role. I don't know. I think they're going to try a bunch of different things. I don't know if his foot speed's going to be good enough to be able to play with a guy like Morgan Rielly up top, but you never know. Keefe might try that. Either way, Luke Schenn's home, and I hope he stays. I hope if he can just continue to do what he does in that 5, 6, 7 role as a defenseman, I like it a lot. Luke Schenn, welcome back to Toronto. And then just before that, as I mentioned, Pierre Engvall being shipped out. Me, with a lot of other Leaf fans, were excited to see this. All the analytics and yada yada would say Pierre Engvall would be good on any team. Excuse me. Sure. But I'm more of an eye test guy. And when I watched him play, it's just like you're a big dude with a long reach and you don't do anything with it. And I'm not going to crap on the guy. It's just, if you close your eyes, I just never pictured Pierre Engvall lifting a Stanley Cup because I don't think he's ever going to be on a Stanley Cup winning roster. Shout out, sorry. Leafs acquired 2024 fourth. Also, it wasn't the same pick. That wasn't the pick that they gave Vancouver. But Pierre Engvall out. And he was a Keefe guy, right? And a Dubas guy. So it was kind of shocking for them to make that trade because, you know, maybe now he's a Lou guy. The Leafs just before that. It's weird when you see the players coming off the ice, they know they got traded. Washington. Oh, wow. Washington acquires the Leafs 2023 first round pick. Is that right? Oh, Toronto's receives Boston's 2023 first round pick. Right. And they got Eric Gustafsson. So Gustafsson is more of an offensive minded guy. I thought, so when that trade happened, the Gustafsson trade, and they acquired the first, that's when I thought, okay, the Leafs are going all in on Chychrun. They're going to use Gustafsson if they have to, possibly Liljegren, definitely Hall to make the money work. First round pick, Robertson, Knives, who's the other, Niemela, other prospect. I thought they were just going to do whatever they had to do there to get Jakob Chychrun. I was 100% confirmed that that was going to happen, and ultimately it didn't, because I just didn't see how Eric Gustafsson fit in this decor, because I was picturing, like, screw it, right? Like, Rielly and Chychrun together, Giordano, Brody, and then Liljegren with Gustafsson or Schenn. But then, and then you still have Timmins and everything. I thought it was going to happen. Who knows where Gustafsson fits in now? It looks like Liljegren's kind of hurt, maybe a bit of a conky, but I think the lead, like, Timmins is your, 8-9 guy now for Toronto? Gustafsson could fit in that left side, bottom roll. I don't know how often he'll be in the lineup. But then again, what you have to remember is when you get deep into rounds or even just playoffs in general, your third line D-core is maybe going to play 8 to 11 minutes a game, a night. And those big boys are going to average 30. So, yeah, I just thought the Leafs were going to use that piece either way. To have all those options on D doesn't hurt. And Sandin goes to Washington. Of course, he was a prospect for a long time. I think Sandin kind of made his own bed, kind of showed his true colors. I know he was liked by a lot of the guys out there on the team, but when you decide to hold out as young as you are from a contract going into training camp, I don't know. I mean, you want your money, but sometimes it just kind of shows who you are, I guess. I don't know. Sandin going to Washington. And now it's kind of interesting to see how Sandin's going to do in Washington. You know, we always get a look here from a Leaf perspective, a Toronto perspective, and now let's kind of go see what he does in another market. I think it'll be pretty interesting. Third round pick coming into the Washington Capitals and Marcus Johansson going to Minnesota. So then there you go again. There's another lower end tier offensive piece. Balanced player in Johansson, or Johansson, however you want to say it. But nothing to scream about. Nothing awesome to write home about, but you could fit him in anywhere, and I think Minnesota's been looking at this for a few years now, where they're just trying to do it by committee. Again, as I said earlier, if they don't have Kaprizov, they're one of the worst teams in the league, I think. He's a true MVP, but we'll see how that goes for them. Skipping this trade because I don't know who Henry Thrun is. Jesse Puljujarvi finally finds a home. Edmonton finds a trading partner for the guy. Sometimes all you need is a new home, a new environment, a fresh start, and Puljujarvi has needed that. Big kid, doesn't really know how to use his hands all the time. Kind of just reminds me of a Kotkaniemi. Maybe it works out, and then a lower forward going back to Edmonton. But Puljujarvi getting the fresh start. He hits a lot of guys. Throw him in on the third line. Throw him on a right wing if you want. Net front presence. But again, just another lower end piece for Carolina. I thought they'd be making a bigger splash. They didn't. But really, it's just it's cool to see these guys, these young kids who had a lot of potential, was expecting a lot out of them as a young prospect, and it didn't quite happen. Then they go somewhere else. You always cheer for them. You want them to succeed, and we'll see how it goes for them in Carolina. Josh Bloom and Riley Stillman, doesn't matter to me. And then under the major trade category, we're getting deep into it now, February 27th. The Leafs acquiring Jake McCabe. That's a guy I forgot. Jake McCabe talking about the Leafs. So what the hell now? So keep Brody and Riley together. Giordano, McCabe. And then you got Gustafsson and the other guys. So Hall was up there. So yeah, that's just another reason I thought the Leafs were going to go all in for Chychrun and give up those young guys. So McCabe coming to Toronto, great player, great guy to have. Oh wow, gets me pumped. Sam Lafferty coming back. I think you can Sam Lafferty, you can throw him on the wing, you can throw him at center. You do whatever you want to do. Center, like the Edmonton game and the Calgary game, we'll see what they roll with tonight line wise, but they were just mixing and mashing right the whole way through, whether it was forward or D, and Toronto's good. They looked really good. Like Calgary didn't really scare them at all, but once they get comfortable, I think Lafferty, you can fit maybe on that third line wing or something. And then also conditional picks coming back, and the Leafs give up Joey Anderson, Gogolov. That was another kid who I thought they could throw in. A conditional 2025 first. But really, this is the biggest takeaway for me here was acquiring McCabe. A bit more concrete player on the defensive side. He can hit. He can get the puck out of the zone. And just an experienced guy. Same with Lafferty. He had experience in Pittsburgh when he was there. Just guys who have been in situations before to win rounds, to win playoff rounds. Not just good players like Toronto has always had, but guys who have experienced it, been gone through it, have won, have lost, and kind of know what to do, and also what to say in the dressing room, right? What to tell guys. We saw that with O'Reilly when he came in right away, which I'll hit on. But Toronto just added a lot of really good pieces there, and that's a good trade for them. Isaac Ratcliffe, Tanner Jeannot. Okay, so what we've seen with Tampa over the years is they're not afraid to give up first-round picks for depth, but depth players that fit the puzzle perfectly to win a Stanley Cup. They did it when they acquired Barclay Goodrow. That was a first-round pick. They did it with Blake Coleman, I believe. That was a first-round pick from New Jersey, right? Yeah. When they're not scared to give up those because they live in the now, and that's what I thought Dubas was going to do. He'd be living more in the now and not too worried about the future, and like burn it down to the ground, right? With picks and prospects, and that's what Tampa does. Here they've done it with all their picks and one prospect to get that piece. When you see a guy that can fit in perfectly into your system, into a system that you know can win a Stanley Cup because they've done it 2 of the last 3 years, you're making that move. Tanner Jeannot, Nashville was trying to get him signed. They're trying to find a way to make it work. Ultimately, it didn't. And more importantly here for me, what you know is that like he's just a wrecking ball, right? He hits everything. He's gonna piss you off all game long. He's gonna grind in the corners. He's not putting up the same points. I think he has 5-6 goals this year. The year before we saw him putting up 20-25 goals, I think it was. That's not the player you were getting. I think that was mostly a one-off. He's going to go to Tampa, play in that third line, fourth line. You can mix him in the top two, protect your players, I guess, up there, cause some havoc. I don't think they necessarily need that, but this is Tampa's Gaudreau and Coleman move from years ago, a couple Stanley Cups ago. I like it, and they gave up, 6 pieces? They gave up Cal Foote, defensive prospect, who is a bit more of a ceiling. They're expecting a lot out of him. But he's been there for a long time now. And again, like living in the now, this is what we need. You don't need Cal Foote right now. You need him 2-3 years from now, but that's 2-3 years from now. You have no idea what might happen. And 2023 fifth, 2023 fourth, 2023 third, 2024 second, 2025 first. Nashville getting a haul, and they're going to need that haul, right? They're going to need every single bit of it. But this is just showing, again, I can stay on it. Tampa saying this is what we know what we have. We know how long our road is with the players we have. Let's get guys in here that can make us win right now. I'm telling you, all these moves, Boston, Toronto, Tampa, New York, New Jersey making their moves. Carolina making a little bit of moves, but the East is just incredibly strong. And speaking of New Jersey, let's get on this trade. Holy cow, there's like 12 pieces in this thing. We're obviously focusing more on the Timo Meier acquisition. I know San Jose wanted to get him signed, but ultimately they weren't able to do it. They decided to get a haul instead. Andreas Janssen going the other way, doesn't matter anymore. He's an AHL player. I'm going to screw up this name. Shakir Adulin, defenseman, prospect, good prospect, I think. I don't know that guy. Fabian Zetterlund, he's been in the lineup this year, kind of a younger dude. He can get it done. A 2023 first, a conditional 2024 first, and a 2024 seventh. How did that get in there? Who knows? And then a bunch of other stuff going to New Jersey, but it's all just filler stuff for money and what have you. It's more about Meier, and I love this. New Jersey, again, is like one of those sneaky, quiet teams that are just getting it done this year. I've spoken about them earlier in the year, and you bring in Timo Meier now to play on that left wing, and he's going to be a guy they'll focus on re-signing. This is huge. We see it a lot with teams like New Jersey and the way they've rolled right now, because you could be good in the regular season, you could be dominant, everything could be working, and then you get to the playoffs and you could lose 4 straight against a team that has a bit more experience who may have been there before. I think if the playoffs started right now, they'd be playing the Rangers, and yeah, the Rangers would have a lot more. You could think that the Devils could come in and sneak and scare and surprise the Rangers, but I wouldn't see that ultimately happening. New Jersey, this could be a learning experience year for New Jersey, and again, even if they're out first round, it won't really matter. But either way, New Jersey looks good now and for the years to come. Who knows? They're calling up Luke Hughes. I think that was announced by Tommy Fitzgerald the other day, that once Michigan's season is over, Luke Hughes is going to be coming up to the squad, and they'll be giving him a look. Kid's got potential. Throw him in the same room with his brother. It'd be pretty cool. And yeah, Jersey, man, who knew it? An exciting team to watch, and a huge acquisition in Timo Meier. Jack Johnson going back to Colorado. Absolutely. Just a nice piece. Come on back, Chicago, whatever, gets a younger player. Doesn't matter. Jack Johnson can go in there, depending on what was going to happen. And now that we're here on Colorado again, I thought, because Jack, he might play, he might not, right? If Colorado's healthy, their defense is insane. That's why I thought maybe they were going to be using a big piece in Sam Girard, because I thought they'd see him as expendable, and other teams would love to have him to throw in their top 4. where Colorado didn't necessarily need him in a top four, and they'd use him as a piece to land that stud or that piece that they needed. And at first we all thought it was going to be Jonathan Toews. I thought maybe it would have been for JT Miller. But yeah, I guess ultimately they didn't want, Uncle Joe Sakic didn't want to see it. And it's fine, because once Colorado's healthy, like I said before, they're going to be very, very scary. Ivan Barbashev going to Vegas. Zach Dean coming back again. Zach Dean's just a bit of a younger kid, a younger prospect, going to St. Louis. And Ivan Barbashev, he's a player that can kind of do everything for you, right? Left wing, center, right wing, mainly on the wing. Won't put up an extreme amount of points, but he'll hit guys, he'll muck it up, and he'll do things to help you win games. A bit of a different one here for me. I had no idea Denis Gurianov was not looking as hot this year as he was in previous years. And Dallas thought there'd be more offensive power in Evgeny Dadonov, so they bring in Dadonov from Montreal and just a little player swap. Montreal is going to retain 50% of Dadonov's salary, and Gurianov gets a fresh start going to Montreal, and we'll see how that works out for him. We're going to shut it down here, folks, very soon. Yeah, I think we'll go all the way down to that. Yeah, we'll end it with that trade. Of course, talking about the Boston Bruins. So, Nito Niederreiter going from Minnesota to Nashville, from Nashville to Winnipeg. Again, Nashville just unloading. Winnipeg looking for more of a depth kind of piece. Another player that can fit in any side of your left wing role there. Not extremely on the offensive side anymore, but a player with a bit of experience, a bit of grit, and that'll help Winnipeg out. Vitaly Kravtsov going from New York Rangers to Vancouver. I like this. There was room, like Kravtsov wanted out for a long time from New York. Didn't see his role there, didn't see a fit. So what I do like about this is that Vancouver gets a piece that they can kind of use, or they can perhaps give a bit of money to. There was rumors that Kravtsov could just go back to Russia and play in the KHL. Hopefully he doesn't decide to do that. I'm sure they might have had some talks with him already, but Rangers get away from that, and they move on. Keith Kincaid, you know, Boston had a bit of room. Boston gets Shane Bowers, a young centerman that they can probably, hopefully, fill in their bottom six centerman role in a couple years to come here. And Colorado getting Keith Kincaid. Boston doesn't need goalies. Allmark and Swayman, absolute beasts right now. All right, and we're going to end it with this, folks. Craig Smith, the poor guy, not having the best of years. He's going from Boston to Washington, along with a 2023 first-round pick, a 25 second, a 24 third. Minnesota's going to help out with a bunch there. For Boston to land Dmitry Orlov and Garnet Hathaway. So when this trade happened, it was just like, what are other teams going to do? Hathaway's going to, again, a player that'll play on the right wing. He's going to hit everything that moves. He's going to piss people off. He's going to muck it up. And eventually he's going to pot some goals as well, and it'll make you just absolutely more pissed off. And of course, Dmitry Orlov coming back, an absolute brick wall. He's a tank. He's going to hit. He's going to get that puck out of your zone. And just two really good team players. And again, players that just scream Boston personality, right? Boston Bruin mentality, culture. And as any Toronto, Tampa, Ranger fan, like when these moves hit, it was like, okay, ball's in our court now. What the hell are we going to do to kind of match that play? But holy smokes, we've gone for pretty much an hour here. Went through a lot of trades. Didn't get into them. Okay. Well, what am I talking about here? Here I am going to end the live. We're gonna obviously end it with Toronto Maple Leafs No, we're not. Yes, we are. But before talking about the Maple Leafs, we'll talk about the Tarasenko and Nico Mikkola going to the Rangers. A conditional 2023 first going to St. Louis, a 24 fourth. Hunter Skinner and Sammy Bly. Sammy Bly going back to St. Louis, and they just signed him to a contract. Blues are retaining 50% of Tarasenko's cap hit. I think they were trying to get Tarasenko signed. They were off on the money. We'll see what the Rangers do. This could be just a short-term rental or whatever here. I think, I don't know for sure. Maybe his contract's up. But Tarasenko, who has been a bit of a Band-Aid, if he stays healthy, helps New York incredibly. So much firepower on the Rangers now. And that kind of other than the Horvat deal, that got everybody going. Okay, Toronto Maple Leafs, they made the huge move. I think this was the Friday of the Family Day long weekend. 10 o'clock p.m. Boom, news hits. Leafs land Ryan O'Reilly and Noel Acciari. They're giving up Abramov, centerman, Adam Gaudette, filler piece, 2023 first, 2023 third, 2024 second, and then money being retained in all these other places. So here we go with O'Reilly being added to the lineup. Awesome. A player who's on an expiring deal, he can very well go back to St. Louis. Rumors had it that he built a house in St. Louis. His family was loving it there. He could go back at the end of this year. Whatever. The Leafs acquire a guy, a captain, a voice in the room, on and off the ice. In the room, on the ice, can take leadership right away, can play any role you want him to. He is a centerman, so what we saw with the Leafs, you can play him at center. They put Tavares on the left wing, and then they had Marner or Nylander or whoever on the right wing, and it's worked out really well. I think ultimately in the end, the Leafs are going to have Tavares in the second, O'Reilly in the third, and of course Matthews on the first. The left wing doesn't look incredibly strong, but I think it's able to work because then you can bolster those first two lines and then you still have a good balanced third and fourth line, or you can just keep it all balanced and attack with 1, 2, and 3, right? And that's going to help out a lot. We saw Riley right away, his first game, calling the boys in on the ice. Hey, let's try this play here. Let's try that. Talking on the bench. I love it. Right away. God, I mean, get him back next year. Why not? If he wants to, you can do it. It can be a 1 year. I love this ad. It makes me want to get a jersey. Ryan O'Reilly coming to Toronto. And Noel Acciari is just a player that can play center, right wing. I think you can mostly see him playing center, probably on that fourth line, I think is what we've seen. I made a joke right away. You know this guy's a hockey player. You know he's in it to win it. He'll do anything to win it just by the look of his nose. That nose has been broken a couple times. Looks like a little toe hook hockey stick. But he's in it. He's a gamer. He's going to piss you off as well. He's kind of like a Hathaway kind of thing. These are the kind of pieces you add to compete with those teams like Tampa and Boston who have those guys to get that done, who already have those pieces to the puzzle to get it done, to win battles in the corners, to win playoff rounds. Toronto has it now, so let's see if they could do it. Again, they're playing Tampa. It's going to be, oh man, like let's just start the playoffs now, you know what I mean? It's just unbelievable. So let's end it there. Bunch of trades. Trade deadline day wasn't as exciting as in previous years, but I mean, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to make a lineup of all the stud players that have been traded. Maybe I'll throw that and throw it on, make that and throw it on the Instagram. All the players that have been traded, you can make a stud lineup out of all these guys. And it was fun to see. I think we're in a new world now where if you make the money work, anybody could get traded. And that's what we've seen this year. So it's been a lot of fun. We'll see how the rest of the season goes and taking us into the playoffs. I'm Adam Groom for that. GroomersTake right there. Thanks for saying hi. We'll talk to you later. See ya.